Stux's were next door, and we all worked in Stux's, about 1,000 worked there. But you worked overtime on a Tuesday and a Friday. But you were locked in at 5 o'clock, so I went up the stairs, and the man says to me, go and nip across and get a fish supper. I said, can't you? I said, the doors are locked to get the books. So they tied her up round me and lowered me from the top to the bottom to run across the road and get a fish supper. And I done it too, when I think, I done it. Maybe seemed to be 18-year-old, eh?
Oh, but you like a lot.
She says, just gone and do it. He says, well, not at the 12 fags back. I used to go 12 fags on a Friday when I was skinny. He said, well, not at the 12 fags back.
We got the fish suppers.
Oh, we had a lot. They'll never live doing what we had doing at Links, I know. Never live. I'm named as well, we had a party, you know. Every year and the bus runs.
The bus trucks.
Oh, we ever had.
We used to go on a mystery tour.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody for the street just jumped to the bus. We all went. They came over gone, mind.
Ran
Egg and Ginger sitting on the stairs outside.
I always saw outside, aye.
Sit on their stairs.
But a lot of folks miss things. Sometimes it's easier to tell somebody something as right at doing. I said, I'm not fucking bothered. No. When we could tell some story about what doing the...
My name's Archie Melville. I was brought up in Link Street. The block of flats that I lived in was right at the clock, but it's no longer there. But when it was getting demolished, I actually went in and asked the guys for a couple of bricks for the block that I was brought up in. Youngest of 9 children, 6 big sisters, 2 big brothers, and I lived in the Links till I was 18. I don't live in the Links anymore. I live further along at Seafield. But for me, living in the Links was I always thought it was a safe place, a great place to live as a child. There was loads of kids played football. I remember there was a big families like the Loves. I remember playing football with those families, and it was like 15 aside, and it was only 2 families, because there was massive families. And the other thing that sticks out for me is I always remember is that the block we lived in Link Street, and this is a bit old-fashioned, but the women always took their turn at clearing the close once a month. It was one of those things, and if you when the close was getting cleaned, you weren't allowed to go in it. You had to avoid going up and down the stairs because you got into trouble. Another thing was that everybody knew everybody, and the great thing for me was that the older people in the Links were looked after by the younger families. We used to go for things like papers for women, messages for neighbours, and you never took any money because you weren't allowed to. My mum and other women of that generation in the Links, they would make soup on a Sunday and give it to the older people that lived in our block or below, stuff like that.
Tell them about your dad. Your dad was a character.
Yes.
Wasn't he?
There were a lot of characters in the Links at that time.
There was a lot of characters in the Links, but your dad was a lovely man.
My father was...
He was.
He worked in... First of all, we lived in Allison Street when we came to Kirkcaldy, because most of my family are from Dundonald and Cardendale, all miners. And we came down to Kirkcaldy, and at that time, 37 Allison Street it was. My father was working in Rothes Pit. It was just being sunk at the time. And then we moved to 2 Marion Street, just across the road, because family got a wee bit bigger. And then we came down to 175 Link Street, which is where we spent most of our time in the Links, living opposite this lady's family, the Wallaces, and we were great friends. And my Mary McLaughlin, her family lived at 178, which was just across. Mary's my cousin, and so it was my cousins and my aunt's McLaughlin family. The Links community, I have really only happy memories of my childhood there.
Okay, my name's Councillor Judy Hamilton. I've been a councillor here in the Links. I don't come from the Links, but I've been the councillor here now for 18 years, and I can say that I've never been prouder than today to represent this community. This is an absolutely very proud and interesting history that we're looking at today. We've gone right back to Robert Adam, who is a famed engineer throughout the world, and we go up to Councillor Stark, who left Stark's Park for recreation for Kirkcaldy. We've got Lady Rafferty, who wrote From the Links to the Lords, and right up to stories from the West Primary School today, people growing up in the Links today. And you can see, if you look around the room, there is a very, very proud heritage. And people are so pleased to be here, and I am delighted to be with them on this special occasion. I also want to think about the future and think about how we work together. And I think that anything that we achieve in the Links and beyond is only going to be achieved by working together. This is a superb community, and I just want everybody to get involved and chip in, work together and see what we can achieve in the future. It's an amazing past, and it's great to be nostalgic, but let's look to the future and see what we can achieve together.
There's 11 years.
11 years.
Aye.
I just hit the record button. So.
11. Michael Manus, Colin, Kathleen, Francis, Martin, Eileen, me, Kenneth, David, Murray.
Have you got any stories
Lots of them. But
you like to share? Any?
it wasn't the Waltons, let's put it that way.
Tell you a story involving her brother and my brother, that they were up the Beveridge Park, drunk.
Which ones? They were all probably in
No,
their time.
I think it was Manus.
She's climbing on me, Mary.
No, I think it was.
She's climbing on me.
I think it was Manus. I'm not sure.
You're too young.
No, listen, I've got told this story. It was Manus and Bob, and they were up the park, and they were drunk, and they were on their own boats, and they decided they were going to pinch their own boat, and they got chased through the park with the police with the boat above their head.
No, I thought you were going to say, well, Michael and Manus, they were all pretty close. Jake Jarvis.
I've got
Bobby and, all that age group. They used to go into Johnny's chip shop. And Johnny, we personally used to call him the high priest because he was behind the altar, like that.
And old Grandad
and they all went in and I can't do it, but he used to do all their names in Cockney rhyme and slang. Oh, Bobby Nobby, Michael, and he rolled off all the names. I can't do it.
And I'm going to do the chippery tots.
That's right. Chippery tots, no red, come back half hour.
I know. That's right. I had the brother what's his name next door, Phil, who really didn't want to be behind that counter. And now you've got the papers and the rolls every morning. Monday to Friday, and on a Saturday you went in, and now you got the same thing every single week. And you go, oof. And he'd write it down a wee thing. Oof. What did you have, Mary? I said, it's 4 rolls in the paper every morning, things like that. Oh, aye, okay. Every Saturday you went back to pay your bill.
He won the Commonwealth Games.
He won a gold medal.
I've seen it.
It's been Laura.
And he used to have a wee weightlifting practice area at the back of his shop. And the bairns had got to go in when he was doing his...
That's one of my memories.
And you got to sit on the wee bench at the side and watch him.
And
He was a
toilet was at the
Commonwealth
back.
champion.
And the toilet was at the back.
That's right.
He just didn't like to be there.
He was the man, and neither did she. She was a recluse pretty much.
Norina used to make
But
the
she was
best
beautiful.
And
She
she
made
was-
Italian cakes like tiramisu, which we'd never heard of. Hey, we'd never heard
We
of
used,
thing.
we used to go
But
up
she
to
made all the
Laura's.
confectioner's custard.
She
and
made my
stuff.
21st birthday cake.
Aye. She made everybody's
She
cakes.
made a wedding.
eh?
I could sit. We used to go when me and Laura and I used to go dancing, and we'd sit, and I'd sit in the kitchen, and the smell of the kitchen was pure Italian
Aye,
home.
it was just so
But-
different. We'd never experienced that.
But the
Nobody had really.
cakes that she made
They
and
were.
the intricate designs that Narina done, they were pieces of art.
Aye, she was very, very talented.
Brilliant.
I love everybody, but here you need something for a story or something, is that? For God first, make everybody happy.
So, are you local at Link Street?
Yes.
How long have you lived here?
11 years.
11 years. How do you find it?
Because before with P business, I am physiotherapy, and work here beside the church. After finish church today, I come back this communion today for my church. After came see for what happened inside. But I am so happy to see some people, different ages, so happy to smile. And for this area or something, it is nice. And what's your name?
I'm Gary.
Gary, I am Ehab.
Ehab.
Yes. And Gary, you lovely piece and lovely heart. Thank you.
Growing up in the Links, my gran lived in the same house in Alison Street for 40 odd years. So did like a lot of the old school people, like Alice and old Jean and Wilma Melville and all that. And we used to always have, which continue on just now, have fires. My gran would have like a pot that you would put the fire in. She dug in the hole in the ground and would have a big fire like that. But that was because she was off the gypsies, and that was just how she grew up. Like, she would build a fire wherever she was in that. And it was just the best place. It was a good childhood. It was rough. We've had our ups and downs, but I think it's made everybody who they are. I think a lot of us are more down to earth kind of people when you go out to the world, and I've been and explored some of the world, and I just think we are down to earth people. You have to be when you come to the Links. I reckon that's it.
Humbled by the activity.
Right. Well, leave me alone, I'm all flustered.
I have a cousin in Australia who contacted me, and he knew about it. I can't find any reference to it, but there was a cholera epidemic in Kirkcaldy at that time, and they both died. I found their death notices in the library in a big original register, and they were both buried in Link Street in private ground. They weren't buried in a graveyard. And they had some sort of relative whose house it was, and they also died at the same time. So my great-grandfather was an orphan, and the whole family were orphaned. The boys did ever so well. They all went off to Australia. And 2 ended up in India and 3 in Australia. You know, they did really well.
Tell about your fags for you and Tush, for Charles. Tell him. She's desperate for a cigarette for your son.
Tushy says, you go to the fags, I'll come now.
This is my sister.
And I said, you didn't like? No, I said, what you asked me, what them for? And I said, came all day, I'm going to Charles. I said, Charles, you got a couple of fags. But the roll-ups. I come, aye, okay. I said, all day. So I said, 2. 1 for Tushy and 1 for me, aye. I didn't care what they were. Then Charles comes in and says, Mum, that's what? He says, you danced past my house last night, 10 minutes after you got the fag. He says, that wasn't just a roll-up. I said, we didn't again.